Joyce, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim in Stillwater, in recognition of the hard work and dedication of Central Oklahoma Community Action Agency, the month of May 2019 as Community Action Month. Thank you all at the Community Action Agency for the work that you do in our community. Anything we need to know about?
Thunderstorm warning.
Okay.
Expires in 59 minutes.
Okay. All right, up next we will present proclamation on behalf of ALS Awareness. I think Monty Carnes is going to accept this proclamation. All right. Whereas, I had to spell this out. I should have asked how to pronounce this.
Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
There we go. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, is often known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And whereas ALS is a fatal, progressive, neurodegenerative disease characterized by degeneration of nerve cells, namely the upper and lower motor neurons. And whereas the initial symptoms of ALS is weakness of the skeletal muscles, especially those of the extremities. And whereas, as ALS progresses, the patient experiences difficulties walking, swallowing, speaking, and breathing. And whereas ALS eventually causes muscles to atrophy and the patient becomes functional quadriplegic. And whereas in most cases, ALS does not affect a patient's mental capacity so that the patient remains alert and aware of his or her loss of motor functions and the inevitable outcome of continued deterioration and death. And whereas, on average, patients diagnosed with ALS only survive 2 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis. And whereas ALS has no cure. And whereas people who have served in the military are approximately twice as likely to develop ALS and die from the disease than those with no history of military service. And whereas the Department of Veterans Affairs implemented regulations to establish a presumption of service connection for ALS, thereby presuming that the development of ALS was incurred or aggravated by a veteran's service in the military. And whereas a national ALS registry administered by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is currently identifying cases of ALS in the United States to help discover the underlying causes of ALS. And whereas ALS Awareness Month and ALS Awareness Week increases the public's awareness of people with ALS's dire circumstances and acknowledges the terrible impact this disease has, not only on the person, but on his or her family and community, and recognizes the research being done to eradicate this horrible disease. Now therefore, be it resolved by Stillwater, Oklahoma, that I, William Joyce, Mayor, hereby proclaim the week of May 12th through 18th, 2019, as ALS Awareness Week in Stillwater.
Thank you, Mayor. Monty Carnes, here tonight representing Joe Carolyn Chambers and Sharon, sorry, I can't pronounce Sharon's last name. They're with ALS Oklahoma. Because of the weather, they could not come up tonight and asked me to make the remarks that they would make. As you've just said, that it's a devastating effect, not just on the individuals diagnosed, but also on their entire family and their support system. I'll add a note here that from my experience with it, particularly young families, financially it's extremely devastating to them, and while there's maybe help for the medical costs, it's you lose one and frequently both incomes, so that becomes a hardship on the families. As you pointed out in the proclamation, it's progressive, it's neurodegenerative disorder. We got a lot of things that go down through there, which I don't see the need to repeat here. But we are appreciative of the proclamation. We have several families here. We were going to have more, but again, the weather turned us down. But we've got Jeannie McDonald's husband and daughter here, longtime members. And of course, we lost Dick Powell last week, and Carol Ann and her family are here as well. So again, thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you. I'm going to bring this down to you.
Okay.
Do a photo. Okay. Sure.
Come on.
take some getting used to. All right, I have the proclamation for Public Works Week. We have a couple members of the Public Works staff here.
Just me.
Just you?
Mark.
Thanks for being here, Mark.
You're welcome.
All right, whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, William Joyce, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through 25th, 2019, in the City of Stillwater as Public Works Week, and call upon the citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works, and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life.
Thank you. On behalf of all the Public Works employees, which goes beyond my department, but water utilities and electric and other areas, we'd just like to thank you for your support and for recognizing us this week. So, thank you.
I was at Food Trucks and Tunes this week. We had Touch a Truck, a number of folks from Public Works were out with their equipment, and I know my kids loved seeing and hearing about what they do, so we appreciate that.
Good. Friday went real well. Unfortunately, Monday and Tuesday was canceled, so no cooperation.
Can't control the weather.
Yeah.
All right. We have one more presentation, and I think Terry Wheeler is here from the local Kiwanis Club to present the Police Officer of the Year Award.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm Terry Wheeler. I'm with the Stillwater Kiwanis Club. Also another member, Bob Roth, who is back in the back, is with the Stillwater Golden K Kiwanis Club. And we are here together for this presentation. It's a little bit lengthy, but it's got some meat to it, so I'd like to share. This has been the third annual opportunity for the citizens of Stillwater to submit nominations for Police Officer of the Year. The members of Stillwater Kiwanis Club and Stillwater Golden K Kiwanis Club, with the cooperation of the Stillwater News Press and with Captain Kyle Gibbs, that several nominations were received, and our Kiwanis committees were able to select Stillwater Police Officer Christopher Hummel as Stillwater Police Officer of the Year. And I would like to tell you some things about him. Officer Christopher Hummel began his career with the Stillwater Police Department in March of 2014. During his 5 years of service, he has developed a passion for criminal interdiction work. In an effort to enhance his skills and increase overall department productivity, Officer Hummel has participated in drug enforcement training, and he works closely with the full-time narcotics officers and other members of the department. He has become a drug recognition expert for assessing intoxicated drivers as well. Between April 23rd of 18 and April 23rd of 2019, Stillwater Police Officer Christopher Hummel has made a major impact in the area of narcotic and alcohol enforcement. Officer Hummel is assigned to 3rd Watch, that's the late night shift, as a patrol officer. During this period, he has conducted 472 traffic stops and field interviews, resulting in 56 narcotic-related arrest cases. These cases have resulted in the following drugs being removed not only from the city of Stillwater, Payne County, but also the immediate surrounding area: methamphetamines, marijuana, addictive pills, cocaine, crack cocaine, heroin, syringes loaded with with opiates and numerous pieces of drug paraphernalia are just some of the drug items that he has collected while on his patrol. Now, these Officer Hummel's impact upon the street level of the narcotics trade is far-reaching, as his impact disrupts the ability of users to buy the drugs, which in turn damages the profits to the dealers. Now, these numbers that we've just said may not seem huge, but understand also Officer Hummel is also responsible in answering calls. During this time period, he made a total of 150 arrests and took over 900 total incident cases during this past year. Officer Hummel has also attended many drug enforcement classes this year, working to improve his skills. He stays in close contact with the detectives who work narcotics full-time to ensure that he passes on all the information which can lead to a furtherance of the closing of cases. I'd like to close this with a quote from his watch commander, Lieutenant Carey Bell, who simply says, "Officer Hummel displays an excellent work ethic. He has shown exemplary initiative for drug and alcohol-related activity, and no one has worked harder than he has. Officer Christopher Hummel deserves to be awarded the Kiwanis Club's Police Officer of the Year Award." And if I may call Bob Roth up, and also if we may call Officer Hummel, we wholeheartedly agree and would like to provide this award to him this year. There we go. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Officer Hummels, for your service to our community. And thank you to the Kiwanis Clubs for that recognition. We appreciate it. Okay. That takes us down to item 4 on the agenda, the consent docket. We do have 4 items listed on the consent docket tonight. 3 of them are minutes from our previous meetings. We do have a couple of other, accepting a utility easement, authorizing the mayor to sign a grant for the Payne County Youth Services shelter grant, and approval of a right-of-way agreement with Medela Gallery. Councilors, any questions, comments on the consent docket items?
Motion to approve the consent docket. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket's approved. Takes us to public comment on agenda items not scheduled for public hearing. We don't have anyone signed up for that, so we will jump on down to 7. Do we need a specific motion to table this, Mr. Dorman?
Yes, actually, you'll postpone the hearing until July, or excuse me, June 17th.
June 17th. So, councilors, is there a motion to postpone that hearing?
Motion to postpone the hearing until June 17th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to postpone this public hearing till June 17th. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that hearing is postponed. All right, that takes us down to item 8, general orders. Item A, approve selection of Burbidge, Trahan and Company, PA, to perform audit of the City of Stillwater and related trust authorities for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019, the CC-19-63.
Christie Club will present that report.
Hello, Christy.
Hello, good evening. City staff solicits proposals for audit services every 3 years with an annual review by the council. Burbrick, Trahan and Company out of Topeka, Kansas had the successful proposal in fiscal year 2018 and performed the first of the 3-year engagement that same year. This is, as a reminder, Burbrick's third 3-year engagement that they're under. The audit committee is responsible for reviewing the annual audits as well as making that recommendation to the council for selection of the audit firm. And so the audit committee met on May 8th And they do recommend that the firm Berberick, Trahan and Company be engaged to perform the audit for the City of Stillwater and its related trust authorities for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2019.
Thank you, Christie. Councilors, any questions? I think so.
Motion to approve the selection of Berberick, Trahan and Company to perform the audit for the City of Stillwater for the fiscal year 2019. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Item B, approve commercial transportation fee waiver for St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. This is CC-19-66. Hello, Paula.
Good evening, Paula Dennison, Assistant City Manager. What we have before you this evening is a request from St. Andrews. They have some property, and if you'll give me just a moment, I can pull it up on the screen. So the property, the southern street is 3rd. The street to the east is West Street. Their property is outlined in the hot pink. They are going to scrape the entire property and put back a surface parking lot. Because of the increased demand that will be placed on that property, they'll be adding many more than 4 parking spaces, and that's the requirement for the 2 buildings that they have. Then transportation fee is required because this is considered a new commercial development in this regard. They are asking that the $857.85 transportation fee be waived. Included in your report and your packet was the request, and part of their justification is that they will actually be reducing the on-street demand for parking because they will be making additional parking spaces available on this property. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilors, any questions for Paul? Paul, is this a normal sort of waiver request that we get?
We have had 2 transportation fee waiver requests. One, the council chose to reduce because of the phasing that a development was coming along and doing. Instead of paying the entire transportation fee for the entire development with only a small portion that they were currently constructing, the council did authorize a reduction of the overall transportation fee to where their total amount would be collected with just the value of that first phase. So it was about a quarter of what the actual total amount would be. And that was for an apartment development on East 6th and Jardo, if I recall correctly. It's rare that we have these requests for waiver of the transportation fee, primarily because the transportation fee itself, this fee is tagged to go to transportation enhancements. The primary enhancement is the transportation study that is done fairly regularly, 4, 5, 7 years. The transportation study is done. The modeling component of that is quite expensive, and that's what has to be redone every time we update the transportation plan. So that's what these fees go for when they are collected. Of course, the intent is there's additional impact to our transportation system, and this fee helps offset that based on what those enhancements are going to be made in the future. Long answer to your question.
No, that's helpful. I mean, I see the justification for the waiver here being the fact that they're not really adding any burden to the system. They're probably actually alleviating it because they're getting that parking off the street, and those people are already going to church there for the most part, correct? That's
yes.
the idea.
Yes, and that's how the discussion was with staff, was they're creating more space off-street for the potential to actually have more spaces off-street. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments or questions, councilors, or motions?
I'll make the, go ahead, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Motion to approve the commercial transportation fee waiver as presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. It takes us to 8C, approved contract with Meshach and Associates for professional services to update the City of Stillwater Hazard Mitigation Plan at a cost of $156,000. Authorize application to State of Oklahoma Emergency Management Office and FEMA for grant funds and approve budget amendment reallocating existing funds. This is CC-19-61. Mr. Rob Hill. You've had a busy day.
We're very busy right now.
Yeah.
So
we appreciate you being here.
thank you, Mayor, councilors. We're pretty excited about this. This plan comes up every 5 years to be renewed, which means that we sit down, we take a long, hard look at the threats that can impact the community, right? Flooding, tornadoes, winds, expansive soils, and such. It gives us the opportunity to decide our future as far as the mitigation factors, and that's what this plan is. And we sent out an RFQ. Meshach responded, and CDR McGuire responded. Meshach come back. They're very familiar. We've worked with them before. We know they do a good job. We have also approached them about not doing a paper hazard mitigation plan. This is going to be the first electronic plan. The other thing that we're going to do is incorporate a citizens section where you can go, you can look at your address and see what threats actually can impact you where you live. And then you can follow along on the different projects as we establish projects that will help mitigate these factors. You can follow along and see what the progress is. So what I'm asking this evening is for you to approve the contract with Meshach so that we can get started. Our current plan expires August 2020. We currently have some federal dollars tied up against the hazard mitigation plan, and we would really like for this plan not to expire. So that's where we're at. We figured it would take about a year.
Okay. And the city portion of funding here is kind of being moved around from other pieces of your budget?
Yes. So just to be blunt about it, I collapsed a lot of accounts that we had remaining dollars in and moved them into this capital project, and then canceled one capital project to move the monies into this project because this project is so important. For example, if we were to have a disaster that we this evening, when you have a hazard mitigation plan, it allows you to be more eligible for more dollars in the long-term recovery aspect. So we felt that it was very crucial to make sure that we do this, and we looked at doing it in-house, but we just felt that if we were to contract it out with an engineering firm, that it would go so much easier because they will bear the burden of most of the labor and not staff.
Okay. Councilors, any questions for Rob?
There's just one.
Sir?
Rob, what was the capital project that was canceled, out of curiosity?
I had set aside some money to outfit a repurposed vehicle from the fire department that was going to replace my currently day-to-day vehicle.
Gotcha.
So we're going to pass that vehicle to the airport and then take that money and move it into this capital project.
Thanks, Rob.
All right.
Motion to approve the contract with Meshach and Associates as recommended by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the item is approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for your work today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item D, 8D, approved collective bargaining agreement between the City of Stillwater and Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 102 for contract year 2019-2020. This is CC-19-67. Christy Looper. Hello.
Good evening. Christy Looper, Human Resources Director. Sworn members of our police department are represented by the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge number 102. City staff has been meeting with representatives of that local since February. They have taken a collective bargaining agreement to their membership for voting. That voting closed today. The collective bargaining agreement that you guys have previously discussed in executive session did pass by a vote of 42-2. So they are recommending also approval of that. So we are here requesting your approval of that collective bargaining agreement. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Christy. Councilors?
No question.
Motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Stillwater and the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 102 for contract year 2019-2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, it is approved.
Thank you.
Christy. Item E, authorize the city manager to sign revised contract related to health insurance reinsurance contract with AccuRisk Nationwide, CC-19-68. I think Ms. Luper will present this one as well.
Yes, there was information included in the report that was attached to the agenda. We are being very brief in that report due to the sensitive nature of it being a medical issue with our contract. We are requesting authorization to approve the amended contract that does have some lasers. There's some increased liability. We have given alternatives and the cost associated with those. We are requesting that you do authorize the city manager to sign the amended contract. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilors?
Motion to authorize the city manager to sign the revised contract related to health insurance reinsurance contract with AccuRisk Nationwide.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Please vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. The vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Item F, approve supplement to contract with H.W. Lochner, Inc. for inspection services at the Stillwater Regional Airport, CC-19-71. Melissa Reeves.
Good evening. How are you all?
We're good. How are you?
This evening. Before you, we are coming to request an increase to an existing contract with H.W. Lochner. Lochner provides to our airport project inspection services. The original contract was for a not to exceed 856 hours, and as we've encountered several stumbling blocks with this project, we find the need to ask for an increase to the hours to 1,600, not to exceed 1,600 hours. And for 94 days, we are asking for $75 a day for hotel and meals for the contract. The inspector travels and comes here from Wichita, Kansas, and when he's here, he's here for the week and then he goes home. So ergo the travel. The travel rate is below the GSA recommended travel rate for this area. Any questions?
I know you can't look into a magic ball.
Right,
That's
right.
Double, almost double.
Right, exactly. And yes, I believe Monty has reviewed this and he believes this is reasonable.
That was my exact question. What guarantees that that's enough?
I won't tell you, I won't be back here asking again. So, any questions?
Councilors?
Monty?
I don't want to guarantee either, but I feel pretty safe that we're good with this number.
Okay, thanks, Monty. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the amendment to the Lochner contract by increasing the not to exceed hours to 1,600 hours, adding the provision for hotel and meals for 94 days at $75 a day.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that contract amendment is approved. Item G, approve budget amendment to fund Stillwater Regional Airport Administrative Staff Office Improvement Project, CC-19-70. Ms. Reems.
Yes, sir. We have a building that was originally occupied with a long-term lease. I believe the name of the company was Medevac. They were an air evacuation ambulance company. They came to us, I think, right before Christmas and said that they were going to need to pull back and wanted out of their lease. And we did make that accommodation to them, retaining their $10,000 deposit that they had put. And they paid their rent until the point that we allowed them to get out of the lease. Paul Pregel, our airport director, has tried to rent that building to other people. The way the building is configured, it was as lodging essentially for the pilots and the crews that staff those helicopters. So there was a kitchen, lounging area, several bedrooms, bathrooms, that kind of thing. He has reached out to other companies that provide these services and to date has had no interest. So we started thinking outside the box and came up with a new plan that we would move our airport administration offices out to this facility. We're asking for a little bit of money to do some reconfiguration, just interior walls and a couple of emergency exit doors. And then the FBO, Morris Dudgeon, he wants to rent the space where administration is now. And he, based on the rates that are applicable, that will be about $8,000 a month. He is going to create a pilot's lounge there for all the pilots that fly into the airport. They will have a place to just decompress or wait for their flight to go back out again. Not so much the commercial pilots, but we have a lot of charter pilots, a lot of private pilots. We even get some military pilots that do come into the airport. So what we are asking for, I'm trying to remember what we're asking for. We're asking for you to approve the budget amendment to move that $10,000 deposit. We were holding it as in a liability account. We're asking you now to allow us to move that into the construction project account so we can begin reconfiguring the offices for the airport. Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a great, I loved the look of it. I think the administrative offices have been in need of
very much so.
Improvement and more space, and what a neat way to go ahead and utilize the existing space that they currently do for pilots and having that. It just makes it seem functional.
I know in the report we mentioned that we realize that we will not be a presence in that main terminal building. But Paul, again, being very creative, he's trying to get a volunteer group that he's going to call, I think, airport ambassadors, much like the ladies at the hospital that are there to greet you when you come in. This would be a volunteer position, but they would be there to guide people and direct them either to the FBO or to American Airlines administrative offices. So we're working with City Attorney's Office now to get that in place.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you, Melissa.
Mm-hmm. Motion to approve the budget amendment to fund the Stillwater Regional Airport Administrative Office improvements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the item is approved. It takes us to 8H, approve the 2019 through 2023 City Council Strategic Plan.
Hello, Sherry Fletcher, Director of Marketing and Civic Engagement. We're asking you tonight to approve the 2019-2023 strategic plan that was brought to you in January and you discussed. The edits have been made from your discussion. The only thing that's missing is the key performance indicators. We talked amongst staff and felt that we needed a little more time to come up with meaningful key performance indicators. So what we would like to do is to have a small task force spend the next few months kind of looking at that and then bringing something back when we look at the plan again. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, Sherry?
Yeah.
Who would make up this small task force?
It hasn't been determined, but
citizens, staff?
Originally, we were thinking staff because we were looking at statistics and what type of numbers that we already had. But I can, however you want to direct me.
So you said we would look at that again when we reevaluate the strategic plan, so that would be in January of next year, most
Yeah,
likely?
because we kind of need to get what the key indicators are so we can start looking at them and creating the measurements and the tools. So I think it'll take a little while to come up with what they are. So,
well, maybe identifying the key indicators too will help.
Yeah,
further that along.
So we did have some discussions, and it was like I'm not sure that that's meaningful? How is it meaningful? And so really didn't feel prepared to put that in this version of it. So it's something that people are looking at and really thinking about.
Okay, so that was a suggested change we had to this
Yes.
plan when we talked about it before.
It's been in a couple of iterations where we're kind of looking at it, but that part just hasn't been fully fleshed out.
Okay. Councilors?
That was really what I was looking for. And I know that you've spent a lot of time putting this together. I understand that this isn't your only project.
Right.
We know that all the work that you've done this year to improve all the engagement things and online presence, that's been great.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, if I may, one of the problems that we ran into is our industry-specific indicators in fire services and police services, the number of calls for service that are answered. And if I tell you that between police and fire, they answered 50,000 calls for service last year, that's meaningful to someone who knows something about the industry. It's probably not really meaningful for the citizenry, and we find those kinds of workload indicators in all of our areas, and we were interested in that being something that can actually be digested.
I think that's why I would highly encourage this to be at least partially citizen committee, because citizens would be able to say what they would like to see that has meaning to them. And we really have no idea what citizens want to know. And unless we have citizens on the task force.
Right.
I agree with you. I think that just having that as a balance to,
Right.
I mean, there's certain things that are meaningful to staff, digestible for staff based on their industry or their specialty.
Right.
That I think having the input of a citizen or a few citizens would be really helpful in understanding kind of what information would be beneficial to them.
Okay.
Plus, you're fulfilling strategic priority number 6 in doing so.
Civic engagement.
That's right.
Partially.
Partially.
It's a step.
So could we ask for a report and proposal on the task force and its makeup,
Yeah.
say by the first meeting in July?
Yes.
That sounds good.
Is there, do you want to approve this now? Do you guys want to table it until we have that? Any thoughts on that?
I don't see.
I feel comfortable, personally, I feel comfortable approving it, knowing that we're working towards this
Yeah,
additional.
for the next, because it'll take us a while to get the numbers and everything.
Is that a motion, Councilor Zalewski?
Motion to approve the City Council Strategic Plan for 2019 to 2023.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would love to see the July update.
With task force information?
Yes, before I approve this, but I will go ahead and approve it, as long as that's a solid promise.
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Thank you, Sherry. Item 8I, presentation and possible action on holiday pop-up shops at Block 34. We have a team
That's right.
on this one.
That's right. Hi, thank you, counselors. Thank you, Mayor, for having us. My name's Shannon Williams, and Elaine and I are proposing a holiday event that is based off of one that is done in Midtown Oklahoma City, which you can see maybe somewhere on a screen somewhere sometime.
There it is.
There we go. And our event is going to be located on Block 34. It will be during the holiday seasons, mainly just on the weekends. We propose 4 20-foot igloo all-weather tent pop-up shops, similar to what you see here, and 1 30-foot dining venue or special events venue. Our shops will only be open on the weekends, Thursday through Sunday, and they will rotate. So these vendors, we will have a whole new set of vendors every weekend to occupy these spaces, which gives citizens of Stillwater the opportunity to come down and see something new every single weekend. This will give us potentially 16 plus new shops coming through there as well. We will also have, as you see the igloo structures here, they are an all-weather. They have a constructed wood base and a real door, a locking door. There will also be lights and a heater equipped in there. Next slide. There you go. That is a good visual of what the inside, what we are aiming for the inside of our holiday shops to look like. These, there will be an application fee, and if you are approved, we will go ahead and assess that fee of $250. That gives the vendors some buy-in for the holiday shop, and will also cover some expenses or help recoup some expenses. In addition to the holiday domes, we are also proposing to have a tree lot so families can go and have that experience of shopping for a tree instead of going to a big box store. There will also be food trucks available and entertainment on the weekends, and we hope to have a beer garden as well. We are seeking sponsorships for the dome, entertainment, and the event. We are working on logos and marketing. We will also be doing social media promoting as well. And Elaine's going to take the rest of it.
All right. One of the things that we talked about when we talked about something to do on Block 34 is we also wanted to expand that so it wasn't a Block 34 event versus a downtown Stillwater event. We wanted to encompass all entities that are part of the downtown Stillwater area. And so our thought was to partner with our downtown street merchants and get them involved and being active in them, like Shannon said, creating a logo so that it encompasses this entire 4-week event. Holiday pop-up shops is great, but we're thinking something along the lines of Mary Main Street, and it actually encompasses downtown and Block 34. We also want to partner with the Prairie Arts Center to have activities that engage different ages of the community, as far as the elderly and children, maybe doing some gingerbread houses. We are talking about also partnering with their artists to, as we look on the Chris Salmon Plaza, last year had the lighting of the Christmas tree for Stillwater as well as the Santa House. We thought it would be great for venues of music, and also do these movable art murals where artists from the Prairie Arts Center can actually put murals up. It's a way to bridge that gap between what happens on Block 34 and downtown. And looking also at creating a map of the downtown Stillwater area so merchants have an opportunity to have their name put on a map for a fee of $100, and it allows them to kind of see what the downtown looks like. I know Shannon has said as a retailer she has customers in all the time that talk about what is there to do in Stillwater, or where can I go buy this, or where can I go buy that. So this provides an opportunity for them to see what the downtown Stillwater has to offer. On the back side of this map will be an event calendar, if you will. So over the next 4 weeks, we will find out what's happening in the Arts District, what's happening in the community center, what's happening downtown, so that individuals have an opportunity to see what's happening as a community as a whole. So we're very excited about that. The other part of it, too, is partnering with the OSU design students, getting the merchants excited about the fact that they can decorate some Christmas windows.
Just a flood.
It's okay, it's a flash flood warning.
Okay, all right. Decorate Christmas windows, have a hot chocolate truck, have some carolers, whether it's our youth choirs, whether it is our a cappella group, whether it's our community singers, walk around downtown, just to kind of have that spirit. We also recognize we need to have partners in this. Shannon and I are very happy to spearhead this, but we've already talked with downtown merchants. We've talked with Block 34 Trust. We talked with the Stillwater Chamber of Commerce, the City of Stillwater. Prairie Arts Center and Visit Stillwater are two entities also that we plan to work with. We've also developed a timeline as we look to see how to move this forward. Obviously, April and May is about talking with all of those potential partnerships. It's also about working and presenting it to the City Council, defining the sponsorships. June and July really is about getting the logo design, social media. One of the neat things that they do that Shannon mentioned earlier is we actually will accept applications from all the vendors this summer so that in August, the end of August, we actually get to present what vendors are going to be in all the igloos for each 1 week session. And so it's just a great way to kind of keep that momentum going and be excited about the fact that we're going to have 16 potential vendors in the igloos. Just to kind of go through it, November 29th will be the first one, the Black Friday weekend. And like Shannon said, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday will be when they will be open. Budget, one of the big parts in looking at doing this. Shannon and I feel very, very strongly that this doing these dome type things is an investment into the city of Stillwater for a multitude of reasons. One is to get a holiday event like this going. This will be the 7th year that the Midtown Oklahoma City domes have done this, and they have not had to replace the domes at all. So we're talking about an investment of, and looking at, we worked with John McClenny and Melissa Reams as far as how much things would cost and looking at that. And we're looking at, as you kind of scroll through here, $78,000 would be a one-time expense for this event. And as we look into doing porta potties, we're talking about gravel so that the ground will be smooth and safe for people to walk on. Doors for the igloos, like Shannon mentioned, they're going to be locked every night. Stores aren't going to have to take their stuff out every night. They will be secured, which means we need to have security. So I'm looking at how much security is going to be. We also are going to have ramps built along with the floor so that they are ADA accessible and able to get in easily for young children or those that may have some challenges with that. And then have a contingency of $18,000 in order to get through. What we're hoping to as far as revenue, and I'll ask Melissa Reams to kind of explain. We do have some contingency monies from the city, as well as some money from the Arts and Humanities Fund that we'll be able to utilize. Shannon and I also recognize we want to put money back into this event. I think that starting this first year off and looking at what Midtown does to get some sponsorships in, they've done this over 5 years, and so they have a little bit more ability to ask for some higher sponsorship levels, whereas for this very first year, we're wanting to kind of get some minimal ones done. We're talking $250 for the application fee. We're talking about if there's a dome sponsorship opportunity. We're also talking about doing some signage and some other opportunities that other businesses can do. So we're still defining those sponsorships, but we'd like to put at a minimum $18,000 back into a fund so that we can continue to keep doing something like this every year, defining what that looks like. We're hoping that these domes would be a wonderful opportunity for maybe when Run for the Arts happens, when there's other opportunities for things to, events that need to have that type of entity done, that they can have air conditioning and heating done to them. One of the great things is that Block 34 is having utility work done, and so that as we move forward with this project, we feel very confident that we'll be able to utilize the electricity and be able to utilize those domes, whether it's hot or cold or raining or whatever. So. And Melissa, could I ask you to come up and kind of talk about the contingency monies and then the Arts and Humanities Fund?
Every year, in the general fund, we budget 2 contingencies. One is just a general contingency, and then the other one is a city councilor contingency. Between those 2, I project that we'll have about $71,000 in budget dollars left at the end of the year. So 65, what did we put, Elaine? 65 would come from that contingency pot. And then the Humanities and Arts Fund, in doing research as to why this money is here, it's been idle for as long as I've been on staff. And you know, Christy and I are going back through and really looking at budgets and finding money that needs to be deployed. This appears to be the result of all the years that the city ran the Run for the Arts event. And this would be just the profit from that event every year. We cannot find any documentation to the contrary. So we feel like this is a very appropriate, if you choose to, method to deploy this money.
Melissa, is that money restricted in some way? Do we?
Not that we can find. No. It's
and the
sitting.
Contingency money isn't either.
No, I mean the contingency money for the council is for things that you direct us as staff to carry out that we were not aware of. I mean, things come up throughout the year that we're not aware of. So we budget that in there for different types of items. One of them would be if we had a position that we were needing to fill and we needed that search dollars to go out and do that. The other contingency is more of a city manager contingency, and again, that's at the CMO level, and we use that as things come up. We've been, Norman and I really try and stay away from that, and it is there in an emergency, so to speak, or for an opportunity that we didn't foresee, but that makes a lot of sense for us to utilize funding for. So.
Thanks, Melissa. Shannon and I really feel like this is a wonderful opportunity to bridge the downtown area as well as Block 34, embrace what the community center has going on, embrace what Prairie Arts Center has going on, and hopefully provide an array of activities that invite people to spend their time in downtown Stillwater and not think of it as just Block 34 or just downtown or just Prairie Arts. We really think that doing this first year will really be a wonderful opportunity for Stillwater, and so that's why we're asking for the council to look at this and then approve the amount of $125 in order to help get this funding going.
We're hoping to grow it so next year we don't have the great expense that it comes with it. And, you know, Midtown has been growing their event for several years now, and they have got, you know, their application fees much larger, their sponsorships are much larger. So that is a goal of ours as well.
Yeah, they've grown so much now. We are only asking the vendors to pay a $250 application fee. What we'd hope to grow into is what they do in Midtown is they actually rent the time that they're in the igloo, and then if they exceed a certain amount, I think it's $10,000 of sales, then they give so much back to the city of Stillwater. So, but for this first year, we just want to get them invited and be a part of this and be excited to do this. And I think we'll end up, letting it go from here. So, any questions?
Councilors?
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm looking at Stacy in the back of the room, and I would encourage you to
I have written down their names, and I will be calling you.
get the library involved.
Story time.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, and I think that's exactly when we're talking about the maps and the events on the back, we need to make sure that we know what's happening so that there's a good opportunity to have those partnerships and that people know and are aware that things are going on, and that the shops on Block 34 and the downtown merchants both are handing those out.
Right.
Yes.
And I mean, I think that the library always has such creative ideas that it could be way more than whatever you might imagine. I have a question also about, you mentioned 16 new vendors.
Mm-hmm.
That does not mean that a retail or entity that's already in Stillwater couldn't have a...
Right. It's inclusive. So if another store in Stillwater decides they want to be part of downtown, they are open to apply. The only thing we ask is that if it is a cupcake shop or a food vendor, that they have a commercial kitchen for food safety.
Okay.
I think there's one part we didn't really elaborate on. I'll go back to that slide. The fifth igloo, that's the larger one.
Yes.
I have to credit Justin Minguez and the Stillwater Chamber for this idea. This is what is in Guthrie at 602 Bistro, which is part of the Dominion House, and you actually are able to rent an igloo that is set up. I mean, it could look like this, or it could look have a table in it, but restaurants could actually sign up and sponsor an evening. Now, you don't get to, it'll be a set menu, so you actually reserve that igloo and you order that meal and you spend time in there, and it's the set menu, and we think that'd be a wonderful way to introduce restaurants and get restaurants involved and be a part of that. So
Be a great date night activity as well.
Absolutely.
You could do a paint and palette. Sky's the limit, but it would be rotating as well on the weekends. I love this idea so much.
The Midtown one in Oklahoma City is actually on a former project of mine, so I followed it really closely, and I love the impact that's made in that part of Oklahoma City, and just the excitement and the buzz that's been generated around that every year when they announce the shops and when they're going to be there, and it's such a cool thing. I think the shops really enjoy it. The existing businesses really enjoy having this kind of extra thing to participate in as a community, and then also to introduce new shops and new vendors into the community. I love it. And I love so very much the idea of connecting this to downtown. I think that's super important. I love the idea of the art and the murals to kind of make that path apparent maybe for folks. Is that kind of the intention, that
Yes,
those
and
murals
also-
would kind of lead you to downtown?
Right, and also have the carriage kind of, we toyed with the idea of having the carriage run that route through downtown, just to show people like, this is on your map, this is how you could eat, drink, and places to see and visit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it connects some of the things that we've already started, but it also just, that's real placemaking for this part of our community at just a really festive time of year. I think your presentation was wonderful.
Thank you. You know, it is different being on this side. I get it. I did want to elaborate on one other thing that we presented to the downtown merchants, and that was something that they were very excited about too. Also doing a downtown Christmas walk-in windows, very nostalgic of New York City's big windows during Christmas time, and we had a lot of positive feedback from that. So that got them very excited that we would maybe do a free hot chocolate night, have people walk and vote on what holiday windows are their favorites.
I think I was at the Main Street kickoff the other day. I think Main Street does a little help with the Main Street program, which Stillwater is just was repositioned in. I think they also do some help with store windows and things. So they might be another partner or group
and
to talk
OSU
with.
design students, that they always have a project that's due around that time, and so Grace has our windows decorated by them as part of their project. And so I'd be offering that to downtown merchants to sign up with students as well.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I think it's also an opportunity, as I see Pat Zimmerman here, I think for Block 34 to actually have utilities covered, and there might be some opportunities that individuals will see what potentially could happen on Block 34 and get behind some ideas that they may have, and that might provide some other donor opportunities that wouldn't happen maybe if there wasn't activity already on there.
I think it activates that space in a really unique, special way. It also activates that space in a way that generates sales tax for us. It seems like a really great use.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of almost a foreshadowing of kind of what we all see as Block 34 eventually becoming, is kind of that, that draw to activate not just Block 34, but all of downtown and that whole humanitarian, section. Or humanities section. So yeah, it's I think that's kind of the key, and you guys hit on that really well, is that it's got to be an inclusive project, not just a Block 34 thing, not just a City of Stillwater thing, but an inclusive thing that gets Main Street and Prairie Arts and the library and all of these things working together. So to me, it's kind of that's what we all want for Block 34. So we can kind of see that maybe even before the whole project's finished.
And we like it too that it's a defined set of time. It's 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so it doesn't impede on anyone's holiday time, or it really allows the 4 weeks before Christmas for people to really get in the holiday spirit, and then you're done and you could plan on for next year.
I think the presentation is great. I think the idea is great. I really appreciate the work that you two have put into this. This is a project that you're clearly very passionate about. Everything everybody said about collaboration and getting lots of people involved. But I am going to ask a couple of the questions that we're going to get about this, right? Which is, if this is discretionary money at some level, why should we spend it here instead of on fixing a pothole? Who's going to be in control of what happens with these facilities in the future, right? If we're buying these domes, we're going to use them for other things. Is this a city?
It's a city
piece of property that the city will then have control to see where it goes and how it gets used. So I kind of asked two questions there, but let's talk about, why this is a better investment of that money than something else, and kind of how you see it being used in the future.
Sure. And I can certainly start to address that. I think when we thought about this project, I don't think we thought there was any money available from the city. I think we thought, okay, we're going to have to really design this to have some sponsorship levels that will do this. And then the more we talked about it, and when we sat down with city staff and found that there was some monies that were left over from something that was already similar to this type of event, and maybe some contingency money, we thought, I think everyone assumes that we can just put money and put it towards a pothole if we want to. Well, I think what we're hoping to is to create an event that will over time grow even more and provide a sales tax revenue that will be able to allow those types of things and money to come back into the community, so we can utilize it and put it towards the infrastructure of our community. I think we also need to have something that our community is very proud of and wants to get behind. And I think when we try to be inclusive of everybody, I think that hopefully will help drive that partnership and drive that ability to say, you know what, we're behind this because we understand that in order for us to improve our infrastructure, we're going to have some things that are generating money in order to allow us to do that. And so that's where we're at. As far as the igloos, yes, they would, or the domes would be part of the city property, and I think we will have to figure out what it looks like if an entity or an organization wants to rent that or utilize it, or, you know, we haven't fleshed that out yet, but it would be city property. I think what impresses us the most is the durability of these domes and the ability to be able to use them for more than just this event. Did that answer?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
A comment from your own tweets, I think.
Uh-oh.
Mayor, if we don't invest,
Somebody reads that?
if we don't invest in our city, other people will not. And this is a kind of along that line.
Well, and can I say, it may be hard for people to do, I have taken my counselor hat off. I live downtown, I've grown up in Stillwater, I'm passionate about really trying to provide a holiday event in Stillwater that is inclusive of all ages, of all parts of our community, and I think this kind of is inclusive of all that. And Shannon, I think, feels the same way.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we've had some holiday events in the past, but I really, in order to do it big and actually make a statement, we're going to have to make an investment. And like Elaine has touched on, it's not going to be a reoccurring grand expense every year, and we're hoping to grow the sponsorships and be significant enough that people want to be a part of it in the future as well. So that's just my 2 cents.
I think that's a good point, Vice Mayor. I mean, I don't ask the question because I necessarily feel that way.
I know,
but
I know,
I mean,
I know.
I think you're right. I mean, we always have a balance when it comes
Sure.
to
Right.
how we spend our money.
Right.
Do we just invest in maintaining what we already have and just kind of keep that going, or do we set some aside also to invest in new opportunities that are going to then increase our ability to do that in the future?
Well, and Shannon and I have been very diligent, too, about meeting with the different partners that we want to have a part of this. It's not just Shannon and I saying, okay, we're going to do this, and now we're going to present to City Council. We really have met with entities to say, here's our idea. What do you think? Is this a positive thing? And we've been met with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement, I think, that we're trying something new and something that is trying to be inclusive of everybody, as well as trying to provide an event that hopefully in a few years will stand on its own and be able to generate enough money to do that.
Okay, so just a couple of real quick logistical sort of items at the end here. This is a proposal, you guys are making this proposal, but this is a proposal for the city to purchase these, the city to own them, the city to basically manage and run this event with your help,
Right.
with the help of these
Right.
folks. This isn't
Direction.
the city sponsoring a private event
No.
or some private entity making any money off this.
Right.
No.
I mean, other than the vendors who hopefully sell plenty of stuff out of
Right.
there.
And hopefully we get sales tax off of that.
And
Yeah.
we will get sales tax off of that. Those will all be sales taxable
Yep.
Yes.
sales.
Yep.
Okay, so just to be clear, you're
They-
asking for the city to buy these and
Purchase the
to
domes.
run this event. You're
Yes.
Right.
not proposing that we pay some third party to do this for us.
Exactly. And they will have to provide their sales tax ID number. All of that will be tracked as well.
Okay.
In other words, you guys are volunteers.
You bet.
Exactly.
Yes.
This is a non-paid position.
We're unfamiliar with that.
Water's fine in here.
We have appreciated the city's enthusiasm as far as helping look at funding, look at the domes and the doors, security, and porta potties, utilities, those types of things. We are very excited about the partnership that could potentially happen with the city of Stillwater, as well as the other entities.
Right. And I think, just by going to other towns and seeing their events, I just have a passion for wanting to hold something like that here in my own hometown. And we can do it. I mean, we have a college town, we have all the creativity. We just need the support to do those things.
Okay.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McNichol, we've talked about, grading Block 34 and burying utilities and putting electric bollards up for food trucks. Would that be done by November?
The electric will be done. The grading isn't likely to be done. but we have included in suggested expenses with Shannon and Elaine that we put down pea gravel, basically, that would create a path in a level area for these devices.
The pea gravel would provide a level area for the domes?
For the domes and for paths
Okay.
to the other areas,
Okay.
yes.
I would just suggest that pea gravel is difficult for people with mobility issues.
Okay.
If some other
We're not talking about pea gravel, it's gravel screenings with fines, and it's the same kind of surface that we use on the trail at North Couch Park would be an example. Philbrook actually has trails that are made out of this type of material, so it's not.
Can you say what the name is
pea
again?
gravel. Gravel screenings with fines.
Okay.
And there's various colors and
Okay.
gradations, and we'll pick the right one for this.
Okay.
In other words, something more stable than just laying gravel on the ground, right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yep.
We appreciate your work and your passion for Stillwater. Councilors, comments, questions, or motions on this item?
So do we?
So what are we?
A motion to approve the expense of, or
Right.
the use of
I
those
assume that's the
contingency
request,
funds?
correct?
Yes. The
And
request is to approve the amount of 125 in order to fund this.
Second.
And
That would be my
necessary budget
motion.
amendments, if you would.
And then the
And the
necessary budget,
accompanying budget.
and the other budget things that come with this.
Do we need more specificity than that, Mr. Dorman, or is that workable as a motion?
Well, it sounds like all she's requested is the funds, so, I mean, that's probably as good as you're gonna get right now.
Do I need to plan on coming back after the funds are for a plan of action, or just the funds are?
How will that work? Will it come through us for
You would offer-
additional plans?
I think this thing is still coming together, so contractually and in every other possible way, so, I mean, I think that you could set aside the funds for this project for right now, and then they probably need to come back with more specifics as to the specific expenditures and uses and so forth, so,
There will
I'm
be,
hearing a lot of this stuff the first time myself tonight, so.
there will be bid documents that need to be brought back to the council.
So we're just
For the
earmarking
specific purchases.
right
For
now.
specific purchases, so you are authorizing
Up to $125,000.
the development of a dedicated fund for this purpose, and the purchases will come back through as they are made. There is one tight deadline, I think, on ordering the domes, if I recall correctly, so that we can have them here at the appropriate time, but other than that, it's relatively easy to take care of.
So motion to approve the creation of a dedicated fund up to $125,000 for the use of Christmas, for Christmas pop-ups?
Holiday pop-up
Holiday
shops.
pop-up, sorry.
And real quick before anybody seconds, just so I'm clear, when this is reintroduced, once the budget kind of comes into focus, is that something that's going to come directly back to council? Does this go through the Block 34 committee? What's the?
It'll probably come straight back here.
Just straight to the council?
Block 34 specific activity.
Yeah,
Although
okay.
they obviously need to be consulted as you move through this process.
Okay. Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to set aside funding for the holiday pop-up shop pursuant to further discussion. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the item is approved. Thank you all. Item 9, resolutions. 9A, Resolution CC-2019-7, a resolution of the City of Stillwater adopting an operating budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. Anybody have a question or comment? I think we've been through this quite a bit on the budget. Questions, comments, or motions, council, on this resolution?
Motion to adopt resolution number CC 2019-7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the resolution is approved. That takes us down to item 10 on ordinances on first reading.
Item A needs to, we'll pass that tonight since that's associated with the
Public hearing.
item.
So do we need a specific motion on that, or is that automatically?
No, sir, it's automatic.
Okay. Takes us to item B, ordinance 3436, an ordinance closing the south 5 feet of a 10-foot electric easement on property addressed as 423 South Gray Street. This is an ordinance related to an item we approved previously at a meeting last time around, right?
Yes, sir.
Councilors, questions or comments or motions?
Motion to move ordinance number 3436 to second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to advance ordinance 3436 to second reading. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is advanced. Now, item C is related to our prior approval of the taxing.
Yes, and it's
Yes.
just a little housekeeping. Basically, there was some issue with the use of transient guest as a term in this particular ordinance, and so we went back and looked at that and saw that we probably should have adopted the Oklahoma Administrative Code definition of what constitutes a guest for purposes of the administration of the tax. So the language that you have in front of you is the language that the Oklahoma Tax Commission would use in that particular scenario. So I'm asking that you adopt that as well.
Okay, so it's just cleaning up the definition of transient guest for the purpose of our hotel tax statute.
Right, there, we won't use that term anymore. Basically, a guest is exactly what it says here. Someone who is not subject, as long as the lease is not something that's under the Landlord-Tenant Act, which is probably most of the leases that we have here in Stillwater, then it qualifies for the tax. But
Okay.
otherwise, everything is the same.
Okay?
Okay.
Comments, questions, or motions, councilors?
Motion to advance ordinance number 3437 to second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to advance 3437 to second reading. Please vote. The vote of 5-0, that ordinance is advanced to second reading. Item 11, reports from officers and boards. Mr. Dorman.
Nothing to report tonight, sir.
Mr. McNichol.
I have 2 or 3 items, Mayor. One, hot off the press, they have reduced the predicted rainfall here in Stillwater for the evening to 4 inches from possible 8, which is a good thing. However, there's still the fact that all the impound areas, water impound areas, the rivers, the ground saturated, it's possible we could have some flash flooding or even long-term flooding in the next day or so from this event. Please, if we do, don't drive through the water. I know it's worn out, but turn around, don't drown. And the other, if there is a barricade up, it's there for a reason. Don't drive around it. It's expensive to drive around those. And you put other people at risk having to come get you, so please don't drive around them. We've been very fortunate tonight. It appears as though most of that heavy weather so far has gone just to our west, about 15 miles away. So, item 2, hot off the press, we learned this today. Stillwater, Oklahoma has been identified as one of the happiest small towns in America in our recent ranking. The ranking considered poverty rate, population, median household income, median property value, education, employment rate, and safety. And that is, there's a website you can go to. I'm sure there'll be something, that website will be available on stillwater.org, and this is from topcounselingschools.org. Something they do.
They do know happiness.
Sure.
They do know happy. And finally, Stillwater City Council is encouraging residents who are presently a banker or represent another type of financial institution to apply for a vacancy on the audit committee. It's required by this banker or financial institution is required by our charter. The audit committee works with independent auditors and city staff to provide for better financial management and reporting for the city and the utilities authority. Applicants must also live within the city limits. The term length is 3 years. You can apply online now at stillwater.org.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilor Zanotti.
Yes, your local government podcast, FYI Stillwater, has now exceeded 1,000 downloads. Listen in on FYI Stillwater to learn information about your local government you didn't know you needed to know. You can find it on Spotify or iTunes by searching FYI Stillwater or online at fyistillwater.podbean.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Yes, here's a quick update on the tax collections apportioned to the City of Stillwater last month. The city collected $2,128,955 in sales tax for April 2019, which is below projections by 3.44%. The city's use tax collections for April 2019 were $183,879. This is above projections by 64%. Read the full tax update on the city's website under News.
I think we need to reword those in the future. The 3% of 2.1 million is a lot different than 64% of 183,000. Sounds like when you say, oh, it's up 64%, it sounds like it's a whole lot, but it's really not that much. So, anyway, I see 64%, I think, oh, that's exciting. I'm like, oh, that's not that much money. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Wedlake.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'd like to welcome the following new team members to the City of Stillwater. Alexandria Green is a meter reader, and Ryan Harkins is senior planner. If you would like to work for the City of Stillwater, go to stillwater.org/employment to see current job openings, and you can apply right there online.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Jaloski.
Yes, the water line looping project is complete. The work consisted of eliminating dead-end water lines at 15 sites and abandoning unnecessary water lines at 2 sites. The project improves both the reliability of service and the city's ability to maintain the quality of drinking water. The city greatly appreciates the patience and cooperation of all residents affected during this project.
Thank you very much. Great work on water line stuff. That's important work.
Yeah.
I do have an announcement about the upcoming Transportation Town Hall. You can voice your recommendations and learn more about Stillwater's transportation system at our Transportation Town Hall on June 10th. It's a Monday, June 10th at 5:30 right here in this room. We're looking forward to involving residents in the process and hearing your suggestions and ideas for the future of our transportation system. So if you have questions about streets, roads, sidewalks, bike lanes, what else? Trails, transportation in general in the City of Stillwater, we want you to come here Monday, June 10th at 5:30 and let's chat about it.
And we'll have historical information.
We will have historical information about what we've done in the past. We should be able to answer any question you throw at us. I'm not saying you're like the answer, but we should be able to answer it.
Well, regarding transportation anyway.
That's.
Will there be information published ahead of the time of the meeting about which particular capital projects, transportation-wise, that we're talking about?
Yes, those general projects that are going to be discussed that night.
And that will be published ahead of time?
It will.
On the website?
Yes, and there are several groups that are invited. BPAC, the Chamber Infrastructure, Long Range Planning at OSU, and I'm going to miss people. The schools, public schools. In fact, the matter is, I believe Monty's having a discussion with them soon for some alternatives. And we will be providing reports to those people early as well.
Okay.
Or those groups, excuse me.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to item 13, appointments. We have a couple of appointments to make to our library board and to the library trust. We'll start with the library board. There is one vacant seat right now, and then 2 that have just recently expired. The seats held by Wanda Cunningham and Kara Adney expired in May. Kara Adney would like to be reappointed to her 2nd term, so I will nominate her to be reappointed. Wanda Cunningham does not wish to serve again. We appreciate her service to this point. We do have a number of qualified applications on file for these 2 open seats. I would like to go ahead and nominate at this time Dr. Jill Rooker and Patricia Mullins for the 2 open seats on the library board. I think I can make all 3 of those nominations at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Kara Adney, Patricia Mullins, and Dr. Jill Rooker I would like to nominate for the library board.
Second. Second, yeah.
We have a nomination and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, those nominations are approved. We also have 1 expiring term on the library trust. Sandeep,
Mayor,
I'm sorry?
The trust isn't actually listed on the agenda, so you may
Oh.
have to hold that one to the next meeting.
It's true. I'm sorry. It's on my sheet, but it's not on the agenda, so we'll do that next time. It's all right. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, that takes us to item 14, adjournment. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the city council meeting. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the city council meeting is now adjourned. All right. That takes us to the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting for May 20th, 2019. I'll call this meeting to order. And on the consent docket, we have approval of minutes, and we have on authorization for staff to execute an SUA pole attachment licensing agreement with ProValue.net. That is a standard licensing agreement under our current rules and regulations. Councilors, trustees, questions or comments or motions on the consent docket?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. Takes us to general orders. Item A, approve Grand River Dam Authority purchase power and sale agreement, First Amendment, SUA-19-16. Hello, Lauren. How are you tonight?
I am great. Good evening, trustees. Lauren Smith, Electric Utility Director. This is a very simple amendment to the contract. It cleans up some language. There were some conflicting late payment charges that applied, some wording there, and some clarification that voluntary programs are offered by GRDA and that they're permissible, and the definition of electric charging stations as retail customers. And so as the customer group, we ask GRDA to memorialize that to us in an amendment so that in the future, everybody was aware that we could sell electricity to electric charging station owners, and that they could resell it to the public.
That just wasn't clear in the contract originally?
It wasn't defined. Electric vehicle charging stations are the wave of the future with electric vehicles. I have a presentation prepared for either the next meeting or the next meeting after that. We've had a lot of our communities have had some companies coming in wanting to install electric vehicle charging stations to build out the infrastructure that will then increase the usage of electric vehicles. And so this is laying the groundwork for that. And if there's not any other questions, I have a recommendation.
Trustees, go ahead.
Okay. Staff recommends that the trustees approve and authorize staff to execute the First Amendment to the GRDA purchase power and sell agreement.
All right. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Trustees, any discussion or motions?
Motion to approve the Grand River Dam Authority purchase power and sales agreement, First Amendment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. Item B, approve bid recommendations for annual root control to Duke's Root Control, Inc., and approve expenditures of up to $50,000 for the application of sanitary sewer chemical root control, SUA-19-17.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm James Driscoll. I'm the Water Utilities Director, here to talk about sanitary sewer chemical root control. Roots are a continual problem for all areas with sanitary sewers. Chemical control is a preventive approach to keeping those clear. Root control, roots are a continual problem. They are one of our major causes for sanitary sewer backups and overflows. The wastewater collections budgets $50,000 annually for this preventive maintenance. With that, staff prepared bids with 33,000 feet as a target of control. After the bid process, we received a single bid from Duke's Root Control with a base price of $48,870. Staff is recommending we award bid to Duke's Root Control and approve expenditures of up to $50,000. Be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Trustees?
I think it's interesting that this chemical kills the roots, but does not affect the tree.
That's what we're told, and our experience has proved that in the past. It's a foam applied herbicide, so it completely fills the pipe, even up into the surfaces a little bit. So our customers actually get a little bit of benefit from it as well. Duke's is a company we've worked with in the past and had very good results with. With our plant we have a lot to consider when we're introducing chemicals.
Sure.
The chemical that they use has been very successful to control roots, regrowth, and also work well with our plant.
Great. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, James. Trustees, any questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to accept the recommendation of staff to approve the bid recommendation for SUA bid 08-18-19.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item B. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved. That takes us to resolutions. This is Resolution SUA-2019-1, a resolution of the Stillwater Utilities Authority adopting an operating budget for fiscal year 2019-20. Trustees, questions, comments, or motions on the budget resolution?
Motion to adopt resolution SUA 2019-1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the resolution is adopted. Reports from officers and boards. Mr. Dorman.
Nothing to report tonight, sir.
Mr. McNichol.
Well, it strikes me that the people at home may not understand why Bill Millis wasn't giving that last report. We have bifurcated some of the duties in the water departments. One we're calling water engineering, the other water utilities. And the difference is the people who engineer and build the system, which Bill Millis still does, and James takes care of the sewer treatment plant, the water treatment plant, and repairs. And one of the reasons for that is that water is one of the many things that we should be number one on our list, but it truly is number one on our list. We can't live without water. And we feel like that our water quality has been great. We think this can make it better. It just takes a lot of attention, especially out on some of the rural systems, to ensure that those get flushed in a timely manner and those kinds of things. So it's hard to do Water 2040 and try to build the system at the same time that you're looking at quality issues. So,
yeah, that makes sense. And during Public Works Week, it's good to recognize the folks that keep the water running. So we appreciate it.
And that has been a challenge lately. Dams bursting near pipes and trees falling over and all kinds of things.
It's always something, right?
It is.
Like 4 inches of rain in a day. I'm sure that helps.
It's pouring right now.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the Stillwater Utilities Authority meeting. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, Stillwater Utilities Authority is adjourned. Takes us to the Stillwater Economic Development Authority meeting for May 20th, 2019. I'll call this meeting to order. On the consent docket, trustees, we just have some minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. Under general orders, we're postponing the Chamber of Commerce quarterly report, I guess due to weather. But we are going to have a discussion around the presentation and possible action on Block 34 sponsorship and naming rights policy. Mr. Zimmerman.
Pat Zimmerman, a member of the Block 34 Trust, a trustee of the Block 34 Trust. So, Mr. Mayor and councilors, I know you all can read, and it's my understanding Patty probably provided you a copy of our proposed policy that we've had Mr. Norman heavily involved in helping us write and rewrite and et cetera. And so I don't want to read the entire policy. I do want to read the purpose and then just kind of touch on a few highlights real quickly. Purpose, so this sponsorship and naming rights policy establishes the procedure and criteria for receipt, solicitation, selection of, and agreements with persons or entities for sponsorships, co-sponsorships, donations, marketing arrangements, or naming rights of Block 34 facilities, items, events, and activities. The Block 34 Trust has developed this policy to, number one, provide opportunity for valuable public and private support to important Block 34 programs, facilities, services, items, events, and activities, and two, to encourage partnerships between the Trust and other public and private entities to ensure actions and activities are consistent with and appropriate for the vision and mission of Block 34 and the Trust. We think that's very all-inclusive. We've wordsmithed it several times, and we feel good about that paragraph, the purpose paragraph. In the policy guide, so you can see those 6 bullet points on this policy, what it shall do. I won't read those. I think the definitions are self-explanatory. I guess I'll stop there if there's any questions, or I could kind of keep going and then go back to questions, probably the best. Page 2, after the definitions, we have restrictions that we've established. We think all these restrictions are really fairly common sense in terms of we will not accept donations from or grant sponsorship or naming rights opportunities to individuals or entities that engage in the following activities or under the following circumstances. So I won't read those. Again, we feel like those are fairly self-explanatory. Procedures, the procedures both in the sponsorship and in naming rights, the entity or the individual would prepare a proposal. Going on the next page, then the trust would evaluate the sponsorship submittals. So we go through the details there. The thing to remember is whether it's a sponsorship opportunity or a naming rights opportunity, we're going to go through a due diligence process, and we're going to form a recommendation and present it to the city council, whether it's a naming right or a sponsorship. There'll be a formal agreement established and written, so we feel like we're kind of covering all bases. The city council is always going to have a role in approving or making any kind of recommendations you see fit. The naming rights is, we really identified as more significant gifts. We had a lot of discussion in this area. Probably real important on the naming rights area, number 3, 4, and 5. Upon review, like I said, a review by the trust, a recommendation shall be presented to the city council for approval of the naming rights request consideration. And then if the council concurs, there would be the formal agreement that I mentioned. And then we thought it was important to have number 5, if a naming right is approved by the city council, the sponsor cannot change it without concurrence by the city council and the trust. And we did, on the naming rights criteria, we had a discussion about should there be, to have a naming right opportunity, should it be 50%? Should it be 25%? We chose through a lot of discussion to remove that because really ultimately it's a decision between the trust and the city council. Is that gift significant enough for whatever the naming right might be used for, or the proceeds of the donation? So that was how we evolved. And then the last page is revocation of the naming right, and that's a pretty standard paragraph, just that we would, notwithstanding the foregoing, the city and trust reserve the right to revoke the naming rights granted pursuant to, and we go through some details there. Blew through it pretty quick. Feel free to ask any questions. Excuse me. We probably had this on our agenda I don't know, 5 or 6 times. I didn't go back and count, but we spent a lot of time on it, so. And so did John and maybe some of his staff.
That seems pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Well, I know
Trustees?
it's probably painful to go through it, but after working for a fundraising entity, you will appreciate having these guidelines, and so
Right.
there's no question. It's fair, no matter who's doing it, and you've defined each area well, and so I congratulate you, because I think that'll go a long way. It's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
My only question on this around the revocation, because honestly, the thing that comes to my mind when we talk about naming rights is what happens 5 years from now when whoever we named it after turns out to be a terrible person, which seems to be happening in certain circumstances. And I know we've got, phrases, comments in here about, offensive acts and the proposed names consistent with the, not consistent with anything offensive, promotes spirit of inclusive, all that kind of stuff. Is that retroactive? Can we make sure that the revocation can be done if we decide that even if everything was great at the time and we seemed like a perfect person to name something after, if later on we decide that they're not, they didn't breach an agreement, they didn't necessarily do anything, but from a public perception standpoint, the name is no longer something we want affiliated with the city.
Those grounds are still, they're applicable throughout the term of the naming rights. So if something was to happen, and we didn't really have any durational requirement in there because we kind of wanted to leave that open. But
sure.
There are those scenarios where something happens, like you said. But to answer your questions, the criteria that go into making the selection also apply at the end.
Throughout the term.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would expect those criteria are in the agreement.
Yeah.
The formal agreement, that we touch on that in the very last paragraph, that's, if they violate that agreement's, those criteria in some way.
Okay. Excellent. Trustees, further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Zimmer.
you.
Is there a motion? Would anybody like to make a motion? Do we need to approve this?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve the presentation and of Block 34 sponsorship and naming rights policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the sponsorship and naming rights policy. Please vote. The vote of 5-0, that item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolutions. 6A, Resolution SEDA-2019-1, a resolution of the Stillwater Economic Development Authority adopting an operating budget for the fiscal year 2019-20. Trustees.
Motion to adopt the Stillwater Economic Development Authority operating budget for the fiscal year 2019-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the resolution is approved. Are there any reports from officers and boards?
No.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the SEDA meeting. Please vote. Vote of 5-0, SEDA is now adjourned. That takes us to our annual meeting of the Stillwater Public Works Authority for May 20th, 2019. I'll call this meeting to order. There is a consent docket item of the special meeting minutes from May of 2018. If anybody would like to make a motion on that.
Motion to, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Motion to approve the consent docket.
You probably remember it better than I do.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. Takes us down to resolutions. Resolution SPWA 19-1, resolution of the Stillwater Public Works Authority adopting an operating budget for the fiscal year 2019-20. Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt the operating budget for Stillwater Public Works Authority for fiscal year 2019-20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the resolution is adopted. That takes us to item 8, adjournment. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Sure.
Sure. There's a motion and a second to adjourn the SPWA meeting. Please vote.
I did just want to
With a vote of 5-0, we're now adjourned.
I just really appreciated the consent docket on the general meeting, just limited. It did make a longer general orders time, but I think it does give an indication of the breadth of items that are being considered on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And I hope that people appreciate the amount of work that goes into running the city.
A quick question that staff will want me to have answered.
Not sure we're quite on the agenda at this point.
I thought you adjourned.
We did.
Adjourned and the meetings are over and.
So
is
if
the
you'd like to
discussion
talk to
amongst
the vice
council.
mayor afterwards, you probably could. We are adjourned.